Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Eustis City Hall. It is Thursday, December the 19th, 2019. It is 5:30 p.m. This is a meeting of the Community Redevelopment Agency meeting. Mayor, is there a quorum present, proper notice been given?
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much. Before us tonight, first thing we have the approval of minutes from our October 3rd, 2019 meeting and our November the 21st, 2019 meeting. What's the will of this committee?
I move for approval.
Second.
Thank you, ladies. Any discussion? Not hearing any. Roll call, please.
Mr. Moran is absent, or Mr. Moran. Ms. Aliberti?
Aye.
Ms. Lee?
Aye.
Ms. LaHoop Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Holland?
Aye. And we're coming down now to items to be discussed. Tom, turn it over to you at this point. Thank you, sir.
I actually don't have a formal presentation for the first item on the agenda because it really is just a procedural item. The first item is to allow the assignment of a developer agreement from Boukalis Development of Eustis Incorporated to Boukalis Enterprise LLC. So Mr. Boukalis is interested in moving forward with the apartment building across from the Women's Center. And that agreement was approved previously in October. He has recently come to us and said, I would like to build the project under this corporation, not under the previous corporation that was approved and signed the agreement. The way the agreement is written, they need written approval from the agency to allow that assignment to happen. And so really it's a procedural item in that it's the same people that are building the project, it's just a different corporate entity. And so staff is recommending approval, and if we get consent, or if we get a motion and approval from the agency, then the mayor will prepare a letter for the mayor to sign that allows the assignment. So staff recommends approval.
Any questions of Tom? Looking for a motion on this item?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve item, what is it going to be, 2.1?
Thank you, ma'am.
Second.
Thank you, ma'am. Any discussion? Go ahead, Ms. Emily.
I just have a question how this happens. If one corporation is approved, how they change to another, and then explain that to me.
So I think what happened in this case was they had an existing corporation, Boukalis Development of Eustis. And in talking to his attorneys, I think his attorneys said, you have certain operations and assets in this corporation that you don't want to mix with the assets of this development project. And so he came back to us and said, I'd rather use this different entity. It's still Bill Boukalis, I still want to build the project. I just want to use this different legal entity to do it. And again, we couldn't administratively approve that. That has to come before you to allow that. So I think it was really just consulting with his attorney and people in his corporation, and they said, do this, not the original corporation.
So another corporation that would specifically be for this project.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
Any other questions of Tom? Not hearing any. Roll call, please, Mary.
Ms. Aliberti?
Aye.
Ms. Lee?
Aye.
Ms. LaHoop Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Holland?
Aye. Item 2.2.
Thank you. I do have a short presentation for you on this one. This is a developer agreement with North Central Place LLC. So a little history. The property was formerly owned by the Lake Community Foundation, or Lake Eustis Properties. It was purchased by North Central Place, represented by Daniel DiVinanzo, in late 2015. Daniel has been working with Development Services to develop a site plan, develop plans for the building. So the planning framework, this project is consistent with the 2008 CRA plan. Also, the new 2016 redevelopment plan outlines that we need to have financial tools to facilitate private investment. And the project is consistent with the LDRs in that Mr. DiVinanzo has been working with the city, the Development Review Committee, and Development Services to make sure that the site plan and the building meet all the LDRs. So here's a little bit about the project. Northwest corner of Dewey Street and Magnolia Avenue. That is basically between Lifestream and the library, right out here. It is a 5-story market rate apartment building, 20 one-bedroom, 1.5-bath units. Estimated construction cost is $1.9 million. And the developer has said, if not for CRA assistance, this project would not move forward. So the CRA assistance is necessary to help close the gap to make this project work. So here are some visuals for the project, site plan, elevations, and also a rendering. So the developer commits to develop the proposed $1.9 million project as part of this developer's agreement, agrees to secure all certificates of occupancy by January 1st, 2022, and the developer and the property will maintain market rate for profit status, not become not taxable. So the CRA commits to reimbursing the developer for statutorily eligible expenses. In other words, you can only use CRA money for certain things that the statute lays out. So we can only reimburse him for statutorily eligible expenses. What we're proposing in this developer's agreement is to reimburse up to 80% of the first $22,500 in new taxes generated every year. So for the first $22,500 in new taxes, the developer can get up to 80% reimbursement on those taxes paid every year. We're proposing that the total reimbursement would be limited to $190,000 over 14 years, and that the total reimbursements would be limited to 10% of the project cost. So, talking a little bit more about how this project finances itself, is being paid by new revenue generated by the project itself. The developer pays those taxes every year. Once those taxes are paid, we rebate or reimburse up to 80% of that annually. So the developer doesn't get any payments unless the developer builds the project and then pays those annual taxes. So this project also generates some additional revenue for the CRA in that the other 20% that isn't being reimbursed to the developer goes into the CRA fund. So in order to get the $190,000 over 14 years, the developer has to generate $237,500, the balance of which goes into the CRA fund for other projects. The CRA agreement incentivizes the developer to overperform because the developer can get more money quicker. However, there's protections because it's capped at 190, it's capped at 14 years, and it's capped at 10%. So all of those things protect the CRA, but still incentivize the developer to move forward. So this is why we have the CRA, to help with projects like this, to close the gap where the construction costs and profitability don't exactly match the revenue that can be generated by the project. It's consistent with our planning framework, the downtown plan, the redevelopment plan, and the LDRs. It facilitates private investment and new construction in the CRA. The assistance is paid by itself. The project generates its own incentive. The assistance is specifically for statutorily allowed expenses, and the agreement protects the CRA and the city. So I'd be happy to try to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions of Tom?
I have.
Yes, ma'am.
My question is this like, does everybody know about this, or other entities, or is this advertised or known to the public that this is available?
Yes, it is not what I would call an off-the-shelf incentive. And so it isn't the type of thing where I can, say, print out a marketing piece and say, here is the exact dollar amount that you will get from the CRA. These are uniquely negotiated items on a case-by-case basis. So what I would say to you is, yes, we try to get the word out that the CRA can help with your project. And the first question usually is, well, how much can I get? And the follow-up is, well, you have to show us a bunch of information, including what are your costs, what are you going to generate in revenue, what's your profitability on this, and then based on that, we negotiate. That differs a little bit from a project like the Gateway Grant, where we do have marketing materials, and it is off the shelf, it's administrative, and you can get up to $6,000 a year. So the answer to your question is yes, we try to get the word out about these programs. They're available to anyone as long as they can help us build the case that this makes financial sense.
Does anyone else ever contact you to get more information? And the only reason why I'm asking is that it seems like we get the same people over and over and over again because they know and because they're local.
Sure.
So what I was trying to find out is, are there any people who are not local who are expressing interest in building and doing other things in this area, the CRA area?
Absolutely. Mr. DiVinanzo has another developer's agreement at the marina, and then coming forward with this one. But the previous project, Mr. Boukalis is from out of the area. He's working with a local developer or a local property owner in Tomzon. But they came to us and said, we want to do an apartment building. We can't make the numbers work. How do we do this? And we said, well, the CRA can help. And then the next item on the agenda, BE Homes, they are doing another project in Eustis just outside the CRA. We could not help them with CRA there, but they came to us and said, hey, there was another property owner who's also here related to that project who originally came to us, and now we're working with a potential purchaser of that project. So my answer is yes, we have people come all the time saying, I can't make the numbers work, how can you help? And the CRA can help.
Okay. I'd just like to see more outside
Absolutely.
involvement also.
I expect that we will have a CRA agreement down the road related to the Waterman site, and I expect that potentially could be an out-of-the-area developer. Now, there will probably be an agreement, whether it's the city that owns the land or whether it's a private individual that owns the land. So I mean, we have certain prominent sites where anyone that comes to us and helps us build the case would be eligible for help.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions of Tom? All right. Anybody in the public like to speak on this? Daniel?
So I'd like to, Daniel DiVinanzo is my name. I'm also the applicant for this CRA. And I'd like to just explain something that's kind of important. I've been here a while. And what happens is, of course, this project is, quite expensive. And it's not like I've got it sitting in a bank, but I have lenders and partners. And so what happens is you have to show an income stream. And the only reason, and I want to answer this directly, and other people can challenge me on this, the only reason this is actually happening is not only are you able to participate at the CRA level, but I am not going to make anything personally on the construction of the building. See, that's one of the edges I've been able to give Eustis for many, many years is I'm not like, this is my score, and so after this I get to retire. So when I'm out there and I have other partners, like for instance, at the Marine I have a partner that has the cash, well, all my services there's no Daniel DiVinanzo line items. It's all at cost. And so with that, coupled with the CRA, because these are not projects that are knocking down revenue streams. As a matter of fact, this project, with the CRA assistance, and I had to show the documents, plus the rents, which I've been able to document and can facilitate, 6% return. And we're talking, $1.7 million, plus the expenses we've already spent. So, it's not really a slam dunk here, folks. It's just not. And so you ask yourself, how are other projects going on? Well, one thing that's relevant for this project that you need to know is this is a market rate project. This is not it's not a subsidized project because you can go out there and borrow money. If you have a subsidized project and you're going to do low income, you can get money at less than 4%. So it's just something you want to be aware of. And, it's just with the cost, that's where we're at. And unfortunately, until we do a little bit more turnaround, because, I have a number of apartments in Eustis, it amazes me that, because we keep trying to make our town better, but we need to get the downtown to a point where it's a vibrant hub so we can push rents a little bit, because that is the problem. I can only push the rents so far. And it's the same with the commercial properties here in Eustis. It's a considerable different animal. And I'm going to just close with something to give you consideration of. The transient issue downtown has been a concern to one of my partners. I don't know if you know how many people are walking around downtown, but it is not an element that would suggest vibrance or a revival. So we want to keep that in mind.
Thank you. Anyone else like to address the committee? Not seeing any. Tom, we need to vote on this, correct?
Yes,
All right.
this is, I believe, CRA Resolution 19-03.
All right. What's the will of our committee?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve CRA Resolution 19-03.
Thank you so much.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Emily. Any more discussion? Not hearing any. Roll call, please.
Mr. Moran?
Can I be the last?
Sure, I can move you to the last,
Okay,
that's
because I
fine.
do need to think it through a little bit. I'm sorry.
Ms. Aliberti?
Aye.
Ms. Lee?
Aye.
Ms. LaHoop Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Moran?
Okay, aye, thank you.
Mr. Alwin?
Aye. 2.3.
Yes, thank you. Another developers agreement, very similar in some ways, different in other ways in how it's structured. Sure. So this project is a developers agreement with BE Homes of Florida. There we go. So a little history here. The properties over the last couple of years have been assembled by a company called Universal Divide, represented by Alan Cheek, who's here in the audience today. Mr. Cheek was working with Development Services on kind of a preliminary subdivision plan, kind of working with the Development Review Committee and Development Services to put together a code-compliant subdivision plan. However, another group, BE Homes, represented by Jay Barfield and Eric Endicott, who are here tonight, they are the developers of 11 Oaks, which is a little bit further down Orange Avenue and is currently under construction. They're considering purchasing the property and redesigning the subdivision just a bit. So here's the project site. It's kind of hard to see. It's on the north side of Orange Avenue. To the east of the project is Lake Willie. To the northeast is, you're seeing a little bit of Carver Park there. The ball fields at Carver Park are to the northeast of the project. Palmetto Plaza is to the west of the project, and the cemetery is on the south side of Orange Avenue, kind of across from this project. So that's where the project is. So again, planning framework, this is a little different in that this is outside the downtown, and so it is consistent with our 2009 East CRA plan. It's consistent with our 2016 redevelopment plan, which encompasses the entire CRA. And the project will have to be consistent with our LDRs. The original design was consistent with the LDRs, but there's a little bit of a redesign going on. But they'll have to work with the city to make sure that it's consistent with our planning framework. So a little bit about Tealwood Estates. Again, north side of Orange Avenue. It's east of Glover Street and west of Cardinal Street. It's currently mostly vacant land. I believe there is one single-family residential home on the parcels involved. They are proposing 66 townhome-type units with a tot lot and open space. The estimated private investment is over $12 million. And again, has said that but for some CRA assistance, this project doesn't work. And where this one is interesting is the construction costs are at a certain level for a unit of this size and type. And they have provided market information saying we're not sure if we can get enough for these homes that warrant the construction cost. And so we'll talk a little bit later about how the deal is structured. But again, they've said that but for assistance, they can't build a quality unit at a price that the market will bear. So the developer commits to developing the proposed project at over $12 million, securing all certificates of occupancy by January 1st, 2023. And the developer and the property will remain maintain their taxable status. So what does the CRA commit to doing? This one is a little more complicated. So again, we can only reimburse for statutorily eligible expenses. That doesn't change. We can only reimburse what the statute says you can use CRA money for. However, the reimbursement structure is a little different in that we are the CRA is proposed to reimburse up to $17,000 per unit. And the way that's structured is up to $10,000 upon C of O of each individual unit, the certificate of occupancy for each individual unit. Now, again, we have market information saying that the developer feels they can't get much more than $200,000. The market won't bear much more than $200,000 for a unit. And so the way the agreement is structured is we acknowledge that, but if you do sell the unit for more than $200,000, we're going to start deducting from that reimbursement because we've committed to basically buying down the price of the unit. But if you are selling it for a higher price, then maybe you don't need as much of the incentive as we originally agreed to. So again, we reduce that initial reimbursement of $10,000 by any amount over $200,000 of the sale price. We then will reimburse up to $7,000 per unit, but that is at the end of the entire build out, when all of the units are complete, when all of the subdivision is complete. And the reason we're doing that is we want to be able to verify all the total project costs when all is said and done, so that we can make sure that we're protecting the city. So the protecting the CRA. So the reimbursement is capped at $1,122,000 and capped at 9.1% of total project cost. So this is also a little different in how we're going to finance it, in that the project does pay for itself over time. However, if we reimburse the developer upon C of O of a residential unit, we haven't gotten the taxes for that unit yet, because the C of O gets issued, it then becomes taxable at the end of the year, and then the taxes start getting paid in the next year. And so if we reimburse, I don't want to say upfront because it's after the unit is complete. Something gets built, we know it's going to be taxable, we reimburse a portion. So what the CRA will have to do is the CRA will have to establish a line of credit and pay that incentive out of the line of credit, but then the CRA will fund the debt service on that line of credit with the taxes coming in from those homes over time. So again, the CRA is protected in that it's statutorily eligible expenses. The homes have to get built for the developer to get a benefit. There's a $1,122,000 cap. There's a $200,000 cap on the purchase price, and there's a 9.1% total project cost cap. So again, this is why we have CRA, to help close the gap, provide quality housing at a reasonable price within the CRA. It's consistent with our planning framework. It does facilitate private investment in the area. The assistance does get paid by the project revenues. We're estimating probably 8, 9, maybe 10-year repayment on the investment. The assistance is specific for statutorily eligible expenses, and it does protect the CRA and the city. So again, we have representatives of both the current property owner and the proposed or the purchaser, and I'd be happy to try to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions of Tom on anything you've heard?
Should we have discussion here then about it?
Yes.
Okay, all right. I'm just curious why the developer can't get concessions also from the real estate, the people they're buying the property from.
I don't know how much I could speak to the negotiations between the buyer and the seller.
It seems to me, and I agree that CRA money is well used in that respect, but it seems like we're subsidizing the property seller more than we are the property owners, the ones who are buying. And that just kind of concerns me about how do we address that? And taking out some sort of a line of credit for the city to pay back something that we don't have yet.
This is a similar structure that we did on the Sharps Park project. This is exact structuring on what we did and what the commission had, or the board had approved previously on the Sharps Park project. We're confident that the revenue stream from this project will meet the debt service requirements of the line of credit.
I guess my thinking is that if we're not sure that that's going to raise people's awareness of a home being $200,000 or more, I mean, are they actually going to be able to, is it feasible? Is it something, are we taking a chance? Is it going to be something that they build all at one time? Or are their homes, it's condos, or I'm just...
They're townhome type
Townhomes,
units,
right.
so you'll have multiple units in a single structure. I think in discussions with the developer, their pro forma is a 3-year pro forma. They expect to be built out in 3 years. I think there's a possibility it could go a little quicker than that based on the demand.
And I know the comparison, I understand that, Ron. I think my issue is that I look at those two projects and we compare them, I think there's apples and oranges. I think the benefit on the side of the Sharps Park would have been, I think, a neighborhood that we've seen deteriorating, being changed to be a vibrant community. In this other case, it is a for-profit, it's not as demanding. And I just think somewhere along the line, it reminds me of a discussion we've had here with another neighborhood that we were going to annex, but the county would not allow us to annex. But the property's being sold for so much money, the buyer couldn't really make ends meet. So I'm seeing the same thing here. And again, I think the intent of CRA is to take care of blighted areas, and I do believe that on the southeast side of the lake, I think it was a blighted area. So just for discussion.
Well, this meets the statutory requirement for a blighted area. That's why it has the CRA determination. As a matter of fact, the market study that the applicants made showed that a house in this neighborhood, because of the nature of the neighborhood, cannot sell for more than $200,000. They provided us with market material to show that. So that's why we're capping it at $200,000. That's fine. You are telling us this, and if you can't sell it, if you're selling it for $200,000, that's fine, and we're doing it. But if you sell the house for $210,000, you're not going to get the full $17,000. You're going to get $7,000. So the proof is in the performance.
Right. I understand that too. It's just, to me, it's that a lot of these processes, we don't see market studies, so we don't know what the market's going to hold up. So how do they know that? Do they know the market rate for homes like that are probably not even something you can find in Eustis? So I'm just not convinced. I still need to have a little bit more information so that as a commissioner, I know that we're committing the city to the line of credit and also the CRA funds for so many years. But it would be helpful for us to have that market study in front of us to take a look at it and see, okay, it makes sense to me now. And, do we know for sure that that's going to happen, that all those homes would sell? So, just a question I have.
I have a kind of different question. So when the C of O is issued, they're eligible for the 10,000.
Correct.
Now okay, C of O happens when they sell the unit or when the unit is complete
It happens when the unit is complete and occupiable.
and occupiable. So it's ready to go on the market.
But we're also requesting closing documents, and so I suppose it has to be both C of O, occupiable, but it also has to be sold. Because we're requiring the closing documents to show what the sales price was and whether they
Okay.
get the full 10.
All
So
right, thank you.
it has to be
for
both
clarifying. Thank you.
in this case.
And so,
But the upside is, whether they sell it or not, once the C of O is issued, they're liable for those taxes.
Right.
and so are we also at that point committing, even though the unit is not sold, to reimburse them on that line of credit?
The unit has to be both occupiable and sold to get the initial $10,000 reimbursement.
Okay, so it has to be sold.
Right.
And
They have
certificate
to-
of
Because
occupancy.
we're requiring for documentation the closing documents.
Just that line of credit, I know we're going to do it for the other Sharps Park area, but this one seems a little bit unusual for me.
I'm sorry, can you speak up some, please?
Yeah, sure. I just find it a little bit unusual. It is a development that appears to be a higher level than what we were looking at Sharps Park. And I think the commission at that time was looking to see if we could do something extraordinary to be able to make that deal work in that area of Sharps Park and South Bay Street. So that's my only concern. I just want to make sure. And even though we were establishing a line of credit, I think it was one of those that I thought, even looking at it, was a blighted and deteriorated neighborhood, and it was in need of repair, so I was really committed to that. This is a little different. I just sometimes wonder about the judgment from the buyer and also from the seller of the property, and see if you can actually do that. If it doesn't seem to make sense, why would you take a chance of building townhomes? I understand we could benefit from those residents moving into our city, but is it plausible? Is it something we can actually do? And a market study would be great for the commission to see that, yeah, that is possible, that we do have maybe waiting buyers, or we do have preliminary reports from other areas that show that there's a demand for this home. I feel like we're subsidizing, so.
And see, I think that we are looking at a blighted area. I think it's an area of Eustis that's looked bad for a long time. And I think that this will aid in cleaning it up. And we also still have a very bad problem with affordable housing in Eustis. This is going to give some of those families that could do something a little different the ability to do it and to maybe upgrade into a nicer place. So, I'm also careful with CRA funds as well, because we have a lot to do and a very small pot to do it in. But I think this is one of those projects where if we get behind it, it's good for our residents and it's good for this city as a tax base altogether in the long run, because eventually it will put more money back into the CRA fund.
And another point to note is that while we're using the new tax money to provide the incentive, the new residents will also provide additional general fund revenues through their franchise fees and the utility taxes on each unit that is sold. So on average, let's say they use $200 a month in electricity, we're going to see about $30 a month per unit on utility taxes and franchise fees. So that's a significant amount of additional revenue that will be coming into the general fund from this project.
Any other questions for Tom?
Yeah, I was thinking, in the new subdivision that's going in, aren't the houses going to be around 200,000?
Are you talking about the 11 Oaks subdivision?
11 Oaks, yes.
We had some discussions with the developer of 11 Oaks, and they had a single unit that was priced at $199.9. I don't know if they want to speak a little bit to that, but they are not encouraging the construction of that unit, because it's really, it's a unit where there's not a lot of profitability, but it's a unit that allows them to market at a certain price point. And so they, again, could speak a little more to that, but they are not selling a lot of units at that price at 11 Oaks.
I was thinking, would the citizens really, when we say affordable housing, and with the salaries that they have, would they be able to afford a $200,000 townhome, would be my question. And the other, I'm thinking we've got apartments going up, we've got 11 Oaks, and then possibly another subdivision. So how do we know that we can actually support all this? And what happens if they have to lower the price on the unit? And we've made, the loan kind of thing. So can you explain some of that to me?
If they lower the price of the unit, if you remember, the structure of the deal is a percentage of the total project cost. So right now, the percentage of the total project cost is $12 million. If they sell the houses for less, which means they built the houses for less, then their percentage of total assistance goes down by that pro-rata percentage. So instead of owing them the $1.1 million, was it, Tom?
Yes.
It may be $900,000, and then the ratio that we pay them per house would change based on that. And that's why we hold back that $7,000, to make sure that they incur the full cost of the project as part of the agreement.
So, again, does it mean that we really do have a market for all of this housing? Has it been shown? How do we know?
Well, anecdotally, there's been a lot in the news about affordably priced housing and the growth of Central Florida. If you're asking me about Eustis specifically,
Yes.
I don't know if we have a study saying that there is a demand for more apartment units and single-family homes in Eustis, but certainly there's a huge demand for affordably priced housing in the area.
So we're saying build it and they will come?
Could I interject? I hate to say Facebook, but then I've met people through Facebook, and the need for apartments especially is huge. People are looking every day.
That I understand, for that $200,000 home.
I think looking at rents versus maybe being able to get a mortgage, sometimes you can buy cheaper than you can rent.
And I think those are, I'm sorry, those are great questions. That's what I think I need to have answered. Like I said, a market study would be great for us to see. And usually developers will do that, or even the realtor who's selling the property, maybe not so much, but they've got to come together before they come to us. I mean, why do we have to be the bankers? They should really make a deal. I look back to some of the deals that we've had going in the last 2 or 3 years, and I think the property, the real estate, the land was being sold for way too much money. And so that person who's selling that property needs to understand that and realize the market's not going to make it, no matter what they build there. So, you know, it just comes to us to solve a private sector issue. And it kind of bothers me because of that. Again, a blighted area to me is still what Sharps Park was like. So I'm not sure what we do at this point. Is this something that has to be done tonight, or?
We're going to let the developers speak,
Oh, okay.
or the landowners. So if y'all want to come up and address us, that's fine.
I just have one question for you, Yvonne. What's the square footage on the units average? And then are they 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom?
I
Are they all the
think,
same?
again, the developer maybe can answer, but I think we're talking 1,400 to 1,500 square feet. I think they're 2-bedroom, 2-bath units. So I think 1.5 car garages, or 1 car garage. So, yeah, that's a little bit of information about the unit.
Yes, sir.
Hello, my name is Alan Cheek, and I live in Mount Dora, and I'm a certified general contractor and a developer. I've lived here for 30 years, and the thing I want to stress to y'all, especially to Ms. Lee, is the fact there are no homes, and we've done an incredible amount of research, and unfortunately my assistant's not here tonight, that he's more up on that than I am, Mr. Tim Cantrell. But there are no homes in Lake County, anywhere in Lake County, in a brand-new subdivision with a new home under $200,000. That does not exist. And when you say, yes, if they build it, will they come? I think they will line up like you cannot believe to be able to get a brand-new home in a brand-new subdivision, basically downtown Eustis, which is a thriving community. It's coming, it's happening. Be able to get that for $200,000. That's what, in today's market, that's affordable housing, single-family residences. And I've built probably over 500 homes in my lifetime. I've developed numbers of subdivisions, and we've done market research and everything like that. We had to assemble all these lots together to put this together, try and make it work. And we're bringing in new people, and we're bringing in affordable housing. And that's what the CRA is for. And it's a small area. It's not like it spreads all over the city limits of Eustis. It's right here downtown, so to speak. And 11 Oaks, that the developers here, that they're doing down the street, they can't get the CRA money because they're outside of the area. So this is an incentive for everybody. This is a good plan for everybody, for the city of Eustis, for the residents, for the restaurants, for all the businesses and things, because we're bringing new people in and we're giving them affordable housing.
Any other questions?
I just need to be real careful about affordable housing. Please, let's not use that as the catchphrase. That's not affordable for some of the folks who live in Eustis. I'm assuming you're thinking we're going to draw people from other communities to come and visit or live in Eustis, and that's a little different, because affordable housing is not $200,000.
Well, listen, in today's market, it is affordable housing.
In your market, but not in this market. I don't think it is such.
I disagree with you.
Well, I was a realtor too, so. Sorry.
We're not going to get into these disagreements like this.
I just have one question. Is a single-family home, is that adjoining walls? Or are we considering a townhome a single-family home?
Yeah, a townhome is a fee simple home, which means that the owner of that home, lot 60 as an example, owns the building and the dirt thereon under it. There is what they call an area separation wall between the units. And I don't want to get too technical builder speak, but it's an 8.5-inch wall that's insulated against a 2-hour fire, meaning if the fire burns for 2 hours, it's still not going to come through. And obviously it has lots of decibel benefits so that the neighbors are not hearing each other. But I'm wearing 2 hats. I'm here, for the Teal Wood project, and I'm here, Eric and I representing 11 Oaks. That's our project too. And to answer some of the questions about prices there and what's happening there is that's a mixed-use project, 69 lots at 11 Oaks. And that's up there, the old, next to Tony's Pizza.
Yeah.
Everybody knows.
I know
what
where
I'm
it is,
talking
yeah.
about. Yeah. And our single-family homes run from basically 245 to about 275.
Oh, okay.
Our townhomes basically run from 256 down to the 199, but the 199, it's difficult in a lot of ways, but not just because we can't make any money on it. It kind of messes up the other part of the building because it's smaller. Now, what we're finding, and we've been extremely pleased with the activity that we've had, and to give you an example, we're still doing the infrastructure. We now have 3 homes under construction. We have a total of 7 either reserved or under contract, and they're all in the average, if I just divided them, about 250. Some are more, some are less. Now, what we are finding is about half the people that come into 11 Oaks can't afford that, and they want to buy, and a lot of them have kids. And so we met Alan, we looked at this, and we thought, oh my gosh, we can service that part of the population. And we did the study with the realtor's help, and I can tell you that in Lake County, there are 46 homes for sale for less than $200,000. New, used, whatever. We took out the mobile homes. Of the homes that are less than $200,000, about 65 to 70% homes are 30 years and older. So to find a new home at $200,000, we went as far away as Altamont Springs and Papa. There aren't any there. So we have worked and we found down payment assistance programs so that people that can afford, and by the way, a mortgage on a home like that is going to be around $1,100 or $1,200 a month. PITI, the whole bank. People can pay that. They're paying it. If they're renting, they're paying that or close to it. So between the down payment assistance and building the houses that way, we're opening up a market for either seniors that can't afford the bigger house, fresh married couples that don't want to rent anymore. They want to start being part of the ownership thing. And so we feel like we're serving an area of the public that's not being serviced now. And so we think we have tried to put together a nice deal for all the parties that are concerned and serving the public, which is what Eric and I, that's our game. I mean, that's what we live for. We enjoy building. It's in our blood. So we have, again, to tell you about the interest in the market, because those are valid questions. What is the market? We have what's called an interest list of about 220 people now at 11 Oaks. And this interest list is, we like what we see, we like your location, I've got 10 acres, I want to sell it because the kids are gone, we don't want the horses, we don't, can't take care of them, we don't want it anymore. And a lot of them have said, once we sell our house, we're coming back in. Some of them have said, when you start getting vertical, which we are now with the 3 homes, we're going to come back in. Some of them have just said, we're not ready yet, but now that we've seen it, we like, what you have. So it's not just 200 people came in. They've shown definite interest in why they're not ready to move now, but when they're ready. When I say move, I'm talking about make the decision as well as moving. So this subdivision fits people that are coming to us that we can't serve in 11 Oaks, but we can serve here. And they're going to be moving into a new place for about what they're paying, or maybe even less than what they're paying for rent.
That's what I need to hear. Thank you. I'm fine. Thank you.
Any other questions? Anybody else in the audience like to address us? Thank you. On 2.3, what is the will of this committee?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you, sir.
Second.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other discussion? Not hearing any. Roll call, please, ma'am.
Mr. Moran,
Aye.
Ms. Aliberti,
Aye.
Ms. Lee,
Aye.
Ms. LaHoop Smith. Aye. Mr. Holland.
Aye.
Thank you.
Tom, how long is 2.4?
You have the info in your packet. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Is it okay with this committee if we skip 2.4 since we have a commission meeting in front
I'm
of us?
fine.
And if you have questions, please get a hold of Tom and talk to him about it.
Thank you, sir.
Is that okay with everyone?
Yes.
We're going to go ahead and adjourn this meeting. We'll come back with the regular city commission meeting in 5 minutes.
You need to have questions answered.
Never feel that way.
You
Never.
always have to have your questions.
I'm not real bright, but
Yes, sir. Always.
I just got the dryer in there yesterday.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm fine. How are you? You're welcome.
Gary's good. I talked to Stephanie. He's alert. He's tall. He posted on Facebook. Luckily, it went through the windshield.
I guess when you put it in, you have a time.
So, he's okay. I hope the person gets Lake County justice. They haven't surrounded him, but they have backed him.
How does that affect
It's the
that?
out of the woods and to chase him back in, so they will get him tonight.
I mean, it's there, I mean, I talked to Bob yesterday.
Thank y'all.
That's what I'm saying. I would like to be in there.
Thank you so much.
Dan, how are you?
Are we going to close before?
We'll probably be split between both families,
Deal, right?
I mean,
like we did for Thanksgiving, so
I can't put it on tonight.
I gotta go put my contact in, I can't see.
I noticed you squinting a little bit.
I can't put my contact
I got it.
Do them individually. Yeah, you need to know which way you're gonna go.
Hey, Gary. Howdy, Gary. How are you?
Hey, George. What's the latest? You having fun? You enjoying this cool weather? I heard Gary the
He comes out, if they see something that looks like a gun,
Chanel.
Just me. I don't know what it does. It's fine.
Elder Perry, how are you, my friend? Good to see you, sir.
Just understand that she reads it and we get billed.
Well, I know, that's why I asked
that's what.
Perry, you're ready when Bob steps back in and Marie put on her, Marie's put in her contacts, so. That's fine. I'm not rushing you.
Okay. I'm just getting this ready to go.
We can't meet the needs of everybody.
Can you see now?
Can we do what we can
Yes, ma'am.
Is this the same property that's across the
do?
street?
Evening, sir.
So
No,
they were gonna,
No, this is further
further
in
into
toward,
town,
into town, correct,
because the other development was for retirement
for an apartments,
across the street.
correct, no, this is,
Okay,
yeah,
so we're getting a nice mix.
yes.
Really, we are.
Yep.
We're getting a mix.
And if we don't change our housing, what was the we cannot live in with our community, you know? So we are getting a mess. I know.
Just a look on his face. I like it, especially in your face.
Are you writing notes? Don't you sit here? You good?
No, I don't. Yeah.
Here's yours. I don't know who that's from, but.
I just thought of it.
Okay. Everybody ready and okay?
Is she ready? Yep.
That's the handicapped anyway.
Reading my notes from, or the same one, yeah. the same one.
Mary, you ready? Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Eustis City Hall. This is a regular city commission meeting. It is 6 o'clock. It's Thursday, it's 6:22. Sorry about that. It's Thursday, December 19th, 2019. Our invocation tonight is going to be done by Elder Perry of Church of God by Faith, and our pledge will be led by Commissioner Moore. If you'd like to join us, please stand.
Good evening to Honorable Mayor,
Thank you, sir.
to all the city officials, to our waiting audience. First of all, let me give a shout out of thanks to Mayor Holland, to City Manager Nesby, for coming out and helping us in our 32nd Harvest Time Ministry Benefit Service. We made a lot of people happy. And Commissioner, City Manager, I wish you had seen the faces of the young people that we gave the tickets to.
Right.
For the training. I want to thank you very much. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we come now before thy throne of mercy. And we come in the name of your Son, Jesus. Lord, we give you thanks. Give you praise, glory, and honor. We're so thankful you have brought us together. Lord, we thank you for once again being able to conduct a city meeting, Lord. We thank you again for all our city officials, Lord. We pray your grace and mercy will continue to be upon them, Lord. Crown their head with wisdom, with knowledge and understanding. Oh, Heavenly Father, I look back and I see the progress that our city had made over the months and years. We thank you again for your grace and mercy. And Lord God, as we enter into our season, Christmas season, help us to be thankful and grateful. Help us, Lord, to think of others other than ourselves. Help us to have a mind as Christ. As you thought about us, you gave the greatest gift that was ever given when you gave your Son, Jesus Christ. The Bible said God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believe in him shall not perish, but have everlasting life. And we thank you again. And Lord, we pray now for a nation. Pray for special miracle, Lord. We understand the turmoil that we're going through, Lord, but we realize that you is still in control. We pray your blessing on each and every one. Lord, I pray again for this weighted audience, each and every one. Bless them, Lord, in a special way. In Jesus' name we pray. And amen.
Amen. Please join us in Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. Go ahead and officially call our meeting to order. Mary, is there a quorum present? Proper notice been given?
Yes, Mayor.
Thank you so much. Mr. Nybert, agenda updates?
I will be bringing up an item under my report regarding the deed restriction that we'll be considering on the recent parking lot we purchased. That'll be under my report, or my section.
Thank you so much. And next we come to approval of minutes of our November 21st, 2019 regular City Commission meeting and our November 26, 2019 City Commission workshop. What's the will of the commission?
Move to approve.
Thank you. Is that Ms. Emily? Thank you so much. Any discussion? Not hearing any. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Moran?
Aye.
Commissioner Aliberti?
Aye.
Commissioner Lee?
Aye.
Vice Mayor LaHoop Smith?
Aye.
Mayor Holland?
Aye. Next, we come to audience to be heard. This is if you'd like to speak on something that's not on our agenda tonight, you get a 3-minute time period. Mr. Nybert?
I have a card from Hurlis Jack Evans.
Good evening, Mr. Evans.
Thank you for allowing me to speak, first of all.
Absolutely, sir.
I have some property here that the city, through the attorney, have a lien of $50,000 against the property. My mother passed in 2011. The lien started in 2010. I had no access to the property at all because I just got it probated after I found my cousin to release it. So I'm asking the city to give me at least 6 more months to be able to resolve this problem, because this property, in about 3 years, this property would have been in our family for a century. And so I'm asking the city if you allow me to be able to work with this to get this out, and ask them to lift the lien for 6 months so that I'll be able to do something with this property rather than just let it go like that, because it's family. And I'm not asking you to do anything extraordinary. Just lift the lien for 6 months. That's all I'm asking.
Mr. Nybert, anything we can do to help him?
Well, I'll have to refer to the attorney. I think once we lift a lien, we don't have a right to replace it, correct?
Correct.
So the question is, are you worried there's going to be a foreclosure on the lien?
No. Yes, sir. That was the summons for being in foreclosure on it, and I'm not able to give $50,000, sir.
Have we?
I got a notice. I got access to the property back in August, but I hadn't gotten any notices before that time. And here I got a summons in November 25th saying you got 20 calendar days to respond. Well, I mean, I can't come up with $50,000, so I had to come to the city and ask the city attorney if they would, the mayor and vice mayor and commissioners, if they would allow me to be able to work this thing out, and I'll be able to get something done with them. And I'm asking for 6 months extension.
Are we having a foreclosure action on this property?
We are.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry?
What are the liens that we're foreclosing on, I guess?
It's code enforcement liens back in 2012. There's a correspondence here from Eric Martin that he had been communicating with Mr. Evans since, do you know Eric Martin?
Yes, and
Since
when
November.
he asked me to do that, I cleaned up the property. But I couldn't manage the property anymore, and the property was not mine. In August, the property became mine. So now I got to do it. I have no other choice.
That was in November of 2016, according to this email, and then it failed inspection repeatedly after that. But it's the commission's discretion. We can do several things. We can suspend the foreclosure to allow Mr. Evans time to request a lien reduction. This board has been favorable to those lien reductions as long as the property is in compliance. I mean, our goal is not to own a bunch of property. Our goal is to get compliance. The issue here is there's been a violation for years, and there's been no compliance. It's failed reinspection.
Well,
So
I cleaned that property up. I paid money out of my pocket to clean that property up, but I couldn't afford to continue, and I didn't have the property in my name, therefore I couldn't get my children to help me. You understand? So now I got it in my name. This notice came like November. I got it in August. I hadn't had any response, no correspondence. I talked to Mr. Eric Martin on several occasions. We talked, and I did comply with what he said, but I couldn't continue to do that until I got the property. Now my kids will help me.
Mr. Evans, what's the address on that property, if you don't mind telling us, sir?
Oh my God.
The street,
Do you have it?
the street even, or?
Lori took her phone back.
What street is it on? Laura, do you know the street? Thank you, ma'am.
And what was your name again?
Mr. Evans.
Evans.
Mr. Evans, if this commission works with you, are you willing to make sure that that gets cleaned up and
Yes.
brought back into,
Yes,
okay? And you can do it as quickly as you possibly can?
I will do it. You got my word, Mayor.
I heard it.
I will get to this right away.
Is the commission favorable in helping Mr. Evans?
Yes, I
Can I
am.
just ask, so does this suspend the lien, or just,
We're
You
suspending.
tell
the
me, we
We'll
can,
suspend it
foreclosure.
until everything gets,
so like Ron was
Let's-
saying, it
let's
doesn't
have a deadline
release-
if you don't
Okay.
We're not releasing the lien. We would
Okay.
suspend the foreclosure.
Suspend the foreclosure.
if
And
I
then-
give you to the end of February, could you at least,
He said 6 months.
Got the
6
time?
months?
Yeah, I like to have.
You wanna
Reason
give
because
it
I got to
6
get,
months?
somebody's asked me about purchasing the property.
Okay.
We can't, I
Give me the
can't
6
sell the
months.
property, like that. So I need
that's a
to,
different objective, sir. So if you want to sell it, what you need to do is work on a lien reduction so that when it's time to sell, the lien isn't so big, because you won't be able to sell it with that lien.
no, you can't. The property, that
So-
lot is not worth,
So what are we doing? Are we is the property need to be cleaned up?
it needs
or
to
are you
be
trying-
cleaned now, okay?
And then you want to sell it?
I'm gonna sell it because I can't afford to, I would love to keep it, but,
So if we give you 3 months to clean it up, and then you can go before the code enforcement, is that correct, Attorney Schroff?
Now it's reduced to a lien, it's your discretion to reduce the amount
Then their lien can be reduced so
After
that you can
it's
sell
cleaned,
it.
you know.
after compliance.
But it needs to be brought into compliance
by
first.
February
Is
it'll be done.
is
Yes,
there
sir.
a house on the property?
No, sir, it's an empty
Just
lot.
just empty
Yes,
lot?
sir.
Okay. All right, so
So
we'll
the-
give him 3
3
months
months
to
to
clean
clean.
everything up.
Okay.
And then at the end of the 3 months, once things are cleaned up, we'll consider a lien reduction to help you be able to sell that property.
Yeah,
Would
thank
that
you so
work
much.
for you? Is everyone okay with that?
Did we find out what street it's on?
Yeah.
Not yet.
Lori's working on it for us.
Oh, okay.
Is that 3 months from today? So it'd be
Let's do 3 months from the first of the year.
Here.
The address is 819 East Gotchi Avenue.
Okay.
Property's overgrown. There are dead trees that require removal.
319 East Gotchi.
819.
819.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I didn't
Thank
hear
you.
either.
All right.
Everybody good?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, you've got
Good.
unanimous.
Hey, thank you, Mayor. I
Thank you
appreciate it.
so much.
Commissioner.
Merry
Thank you.
Christmas.
All right.
Mr. Nybert,
That's all the cards I have.
off cards. Anyone else like to address the commission this evening? I'm not seeing anyone. Next, we have consent agenda, and there are 6 items on the consent agenda. Is there anything anybody wants pulled for discussion?
No.
No?
All right, looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Thank you, ma'am.
Second?
Thank you, sir. Any discussion? Not hearing any, roll call, please.
Commissioner Moran,
Aye.
Commissioner Aliberti,
Aye.
Commissioner Lee,
Aye.
Vice Mayor LaHoop Smith,
Aye.
Mayor Holland.
Aye. Mr. Attorney?
Yes, sir. This is the second and final reading of Ordinance 1935, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Eustis, Florida, voluntarily annexing approximately .30 acres of real property located at the northwest corner of Washington Avenue and Ohio Street. Would any members of the public like to speak on Ordinance 1935? Seeing none, we will close the public comment portion of the hearing.
Commissioners, before us we have ordinance number 19-35. What's the will of this commission?
I make motion to approve on second reading.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, ma'am. Any discussion? Not hearing any. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Moran,
Aye.
Commissioner Aliberti.
Aye.
Commissioner Lee,
Aye.
Vice Mayor LaHoop Smith,
Aye.
Mayor Holland.
Aye. Other business, appointment of acting city manager, Bill
two
Howe.
others.
Wait, we got
Did I
two
miss you
more.
one? There's two more. I'm sorry.
Fine.
The way those are written on there, I always skip those.
Ordinance 1936, an ordinance of the
Oh,
City
yeah.
Commission of the City of Eustis, Lake County, Florida, amending the comprehensive plan, changing the future land use designation of .3 acres of recently annexed real property located on the northwest corner of Washington Avenue and Ohio Street, as more particularly described herein, from urban medium in Lake County to suburban residential SR in the City of Eustis. Any members of the public on this ordinance, 1936? Seeing none, we'll close the public comment portion of the hearing.
Commissioners, before us we have ordinance 19-36. What's the will of the commission?
I make a motion to approve on second reading.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Not hearing any. Roll call.
Commissioner Moran,
Aye.
Commissioner Aliberti,
Aye.
Commissioner Lee,
Aye.
Vice Mayor LaHoop Smith,
Aye.
Mayor Holland.
Aye.
Ordinance 1937, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Eustis, Lake County, Florida, assigning the Suburban Neighborhood Design District designation to approximately .3 acres of recently annexed real property located at the northwest corner of Washington Avenue and Ohio Street. Any members of the public wish to speak on ordinance 1937? Seeing none, the public comment portion of the hearing is closed.
Commissioners, before us we have ordinance number 19-37. What's the will of the commission?
Move for approval.
Thank you, ma'am.
Second.
Thank you, ma'am. Any discussion? Not hearing any. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Moran,
Aye.
Commissioner Aliberti,
Aye.
Commissioner Lee,
Aye.
Vice Mayor LaHoop Smith,
Aye.
Mayor Holland.
Aye. Now we'll go to other business. Appointment of acting city manager, Bill Howe.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be visiting my son in St. Louis over the holidays, starting tomorrow and through next week. There's some action that needs to be taken in my absence that requires a city manager to execute, so I would recommend appointing Bill Howe to act as city manager in my
As
stead.
long as Bill Howe keeps things quiet, we can do that. Seems like, it seems how every time you go somewhere, he causes a problem.
That's right.
All right. Do you need us to go ahead and vote on this, or it's just notification?
Just to point, just your consent to appointing him. as-
Everybody good with appointing Bill? You've got that. Thank you, Bill. All right. Future agenda items. Something anybody wants to put on a next agenda?
Oh, yeah, I'd like to do a report on concurrency meeting I went to. I think it'd be great for the commission to hear about it. It was very fruitful, and I'll do it at the January 2nd meeting, I guess. It'd be nice to have a discussion about it.
If you'll get with Mary and get her
Okay.
the information she needs to place it on the agenda, please. Anything else for anybody? All right. And let's go to city commission reports. Miss Emily, you have anything to report?
Yes, I had a wonderful visit with the senior breakfast group, and they were very receptive to my presence, and maybe it's because I brought some cookies, I don't know, but I had a really good time with them and encouraged them to attend our meetings and left cards for them to call, and they really seemed to be happy that I was there. So I did tell them I would return and visit with them from time to time.
Thank you. Anything else, Miss Emily?
That's it.
Thank you so much. Madam Marie?
No, I just, I came back from Ireland and England and got a really good view of how they celebrate Christmas. And very simply done, but they have all kinds of Christmas markets. So I ended up taking pictures of lots of storefronts and lots of things to bring back to our city, since our winter wonderland could use, a real for next year. So something we can look at.
They
I
really
think
know
it
how to
would-
decorate,
Yeah,
don't
they
they?
really know how to decorate. Everything is decorated. So.
Absolutely. Anything else, Marie?
No, I'm good.
Commissioner Moran?
I do have one, sorry. But I was talking with our legal counsel, Mr. Schrott, and I have a very similar case that Mr. Evan came up with tonight. It wasn't planned. It was something that I didn't realize would happen tonight, but it's the same case where I have a person that lives in the neighborhood who is reluctant and maybe somewhat skeptical about coming to city council and has allowed the lien process to go on for the last 3 or 4 years, I believe, and I'm hoping I can intercede. The owner is approaching 80 years of age, and I've asked Mr. Schreider if we could actually do, as we did earlier, a suspend, and I'm not looking for 6 months, I'm looking for maybe 30 days to see if I can get some movement on her part to be able to release that lien, or at least decide what to do with the property. I viewed the property yesterday. It's in deplorable condition, and the lien is over $50,000. I'd just like to have some, maybe if I can get 30 to 60 days to work with her and see if we can come up with a plan.
Is it in
Understanding-
foreclosure?
Yes, it is. And it's just a suspension. Again, it's not elimination, but it's one of those situations, you have somebody who doesn't know how to handle that, and you wonder, is there some way I can intercede and help that owner to make the decision that's going to get her out of that position? I often wonder if I should get involved, but this is, I guess, my old social work background. It says, I probably need to help her out.
I guess the question is her intention to sell the property? Does she have any intention of abating the violations?
I think there's going to be a discussion with you and I, and maybe code enforcement, to figure out what can she do. And I would think it would be to sell the property. I think it's 2 lots, and I think it needs some sort of a gentle touch to be able to discuss that with her, not in an open forum like this, but the 3 of us, and see, what can we do for you to get you out of this?
Does she have a potential buyer for the property?
I don't think so, no. I don't think she's even thought about it. It's one of those situations where the person is somewhat reluctant to even involve, never responded to any of the liens.
And is there a building on the property?
Yes, there is. Mhm.
Okay. I mean, obviously, one thing the commission could consider, if she were to come up with a buyer, and that buyer would commit to making improvements necessary to bring it up to code, then we could agree in a contractual form, I guess, to release the lien with a performance commitment from the buyer on that. Then the commission could look at an avenue of working that out with her to, our goal isn't to take property.
No,
Our goal is
I
to
said
get
that too,
compliance. And if we can work out an agreement with the lady, if her intent is to sell it, and we can work out an agreement with a potential buyer that she might have to make the necessary improvements to bring it up to code, that's something that we can recommend and consider.
And I think that's what has to happen. It has to be the 3 of us talking with her to say, what are your options, and then let her make that choice. I'm not looking for a release if the choice is not going to alleviate the situation. But I think if we have an opportunity to talk with her, like you're suggesting, it may be the way to get there. The home is huge. The second home, because there's 3 properties involved here. There's 2, there's one with a house on it, and I think there's a vacant lot. You can't even see the home. And then the other one happens to be in my neighborhood, and the house is a big house, and there's no way this lady can actually manage that house also. She has a foreclosure on the 2 lots with the house, and then she has code violations on her main house. But this house has got to be 1930s, and I think it's 3 floors, and she's living in there by herself with her daughter. So
There's nothing wrong with you reaching out to a constituent and offering assistance and bringing her in and us discussing it. We'd be happy to do that.
Okay. Do I need to suspend it for 30 days too? So
I need direction, since we were given direction before close. I need majority direction to suspend it. And
So who's foreclosing on the property?
we are.
we are. It's very similar to what happened.
There's no
here.
mortgage on it. It's free and
Yeah.
clear.
So I think she
Oh,
can
so you
actually.
know the property that he's talking about?
Yeah, we discussed this. It's on Center. It's on Center Street.
It's not a homesteaded property?
No,
N-
the
not-
homestead is near where Mr. Moran lives.
Yes, the code violation is actually the homestead.
Got it.
But the other violation, the code violation for the other one is the 2 lots on Center Street.
Okay.
So,
We'd be happy to meet.
how much time do you think I would need?
Give her 60 days.
Okay.
That's not going to hurt anything.
Everybody good with suspending for 2 months? Give them time to figure it out?
End of February?
Sure.
End of February?
Barnes, do you have a comment? Sorry, Mayor. Did you have a comment? Before you guys decide.
Thank you. Commission, this property owner has a long history of violations. The house is at 1215 South Center Street, I believe.
Yeah.
And I just wanted the commission to be aware that we have other residents in the area that have ongoing complaints and continually check in with the city to see the status on the property. So I thought it was important for you to have that information while you make this decision.
Yeah, and I understand that too, and I think there's a point in time, I've already made commitment to commission here that if it's not going to work, then I'm not going to help. If somebody's not going to take some sort of direction to get that situation cleared up, then the person's on their own. But I think we're at a point where I think I can really work with her and see what we can do. And I come back, and say to the commission whether or not it's going to work.
At this point, what I'm hearing is she doesn't have the means to make it.
She doesn't.
So the only option for her is to do one of two things. One, she can hopefully find a buyer that would agree to make improvements within a certain period of time in exchange for release or reduction of the liens. Or she could, I'm going to ask Mr. Shaw, she could not challenge the foreclosure action and sign a quitclaim deed to the city.
He's already been defaulted, so, yeah, she could do that as well.
Yeah.
So if her goal is to get out from underneath the burden, there are other options available.
That's what we need to find out. You and I both need to find out from her. Okay.
If you want to set it up for after when I get back.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks, Ron.
So 60 days?
60 days, good with
End
the
of
condition.
February.
End of February.
Okay.
All right, understood, thank you.
Starting at the 1st of January.
Starting
First of January.
Yes.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Madam Vice Mayor, anything?
I thought it was a fairly good workshop last night, and I thought today's dog park was an awesome event. And, Gary Wenham is in our prayers and our thoughts. And we have a lot of men in blue, I guess you could say, men in blue out there doing their job, and it's very, it was very shocking, actually, so.
Is this urgent?
I would work just about. Yeah.
So.
That it? Mm-hmm. Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Niver.
Thank you. As you recall, last month, the city purchased the former Lake Mechanical parking lot. We had discussions prior to the auction that there was a neighboring property owner that had concerns about the availability of a long-term public parking arrangement on that property. We had discussions. There were some of you that were okay with doing a deed restriction, and the deed restriction is not specific to an individual. The deed restriction solely says that the city of Eustis will not use that property for any other purpose than public parking. There was some concern over the length of time. Some of you were okay with 20 years, some of you were okay with 10. Some of you initially weren't okay with it at all, but we seemed to reach a consensus that 10 years might be okay. The applicant has concerns on, or the individual has concerns on only the 10-year. We have the deed restriction will be on the next agenda for your consideration. I'm seeking consensus on to whether or not to make it a 10-year commitment on the deed restriction or 20-year commitment on the deed restriction.
Marie?
Go as low as you can, I say 10.
Same here.
Bob?
So what are we going to do with it? If it's not a parking, I guess that's my question. What is the thought? What are we going to do with it if not parking?
Obviously, we know the properties that are available for parking. The one parking property that obviously the parking lot, that's the old emergency room, can't be a multi-level parking area. And if we ever make that available for parking, we can't do that. We're confident that the lot we just purchased could be utilized for a multi-level parking facility. So ultimately, when the parking needs of Eustis grow, the plan would be, obviously, we provide that for parking and at a long-term future date.
So still parking,
It would still
though.
be public
Yeah,
parking.
parking.
So my intent and recommendation at this point is, at this point, I don't see anything in the near future that would necessitate using it anything other than for parking, public parking purposes.
Could we do 10 years with an option to do it again for another 10 years, or?
Well, the option is the commission.
Is the commission.
Is the commission. So this isn't a restriction or an option or a right granted to any specific individual. This is a general deed restriction on the property. So you have the latitude on what you want to do to restrict the uses of the property. Obviously, you're making a long-term commitment that would bind the hands of future commissions. I know there were some of you who had that concern. But my vision, my belief is that that should be public parking. Public parking in downtown areas, as we understand, is an issue. With some of the plans that we have available, we're going to need it. So I don't see it being used for anything other than
Parking.
public parking for a long-term period.
And I don't have a problem with 20 years, because if it's going to remain public parking, then there's no, it's kind of a moot point, isn't it? If it's parking.
The market may decide that too, so I say 10 years, and then you have, if there's a need, then we could go back and say, well, I just think the market will decide whether or not we need the parking, or we need a parking garage. It obviously.
But it's going to be parking, right?
You're right, yes, so you don't need a deed. I mean, you don't need, that's something.
Miss Emily.
We
I'm sorry.
bid it on and got the property, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So why are we, I mean, we know what we're gonna do, so who are we answering to, and why are they trying to put restrictions on what else can we do if we're gonna do that? So why are they, whoever it is, what's the concern? And what else could we do with it?
I mean, you could sell it to, if somebody came with you to a project to build a commercial, if the deed restriction wasn't there, and if somebody came and wanted to buy the property from the city to do a commercial development that you thought was a wonderful idea, then you could do that. With this restriction, you could not do that.
Well, it seems to me we're restricting ourselves. I'm opposed to going more than 10 years. I just feel like I wouldn't put anything in there because I know it's going to be parking. However, you're always talking about trying to make downtown do something. Well, I mean, it's a free marketplace, so if someone came and wanted to build something fantabulous on there, why not? But I know that we need parking, so, why are we explaining or putting something on ourselves?
Because as I explained the evening before the auction, the individual had an interest in purchasing the lot because they wanted to make sure that they had access to adequate parking for a project that they wanted to do. Obviously, he knew of our interest in the property and came to try and work out something so that the city could acquire the property, yet try and give him some comfort level that there would be adequate parking nearby the property he wished to purchase to make it a more viable project. So as we discussed, there was consensus that the majority of you were kind of okay with the deed restriction. There were, obviously, as you indicated, there was concerns on length of time. And I made that call to him and told him that they're okay, overall they're okay with the deed restriction. They seem to be more comfortable with 10, and he made that decision not to bid on that property.
Well, as I said to you before, I went along with it, but I don't see more than 10 years.
Yeah.
That's my feeling.
Well, let's say 10 years.
10 years,
and then
me too.
in 10 years, we'll see.
Yeah.
I won't see, but y'all can see.
I think the other thing too is that
10 of us.
we're telling downtown developers that we got public parking too, so if there are some buildings around it that you can't get parking, then we've got a commitment we made that there'll be public parking available, so to me, it seems like it's a good idea for us, so.
I mean, there would be not anything stopping us from, say, in 5 years, putting a parking garage on that property, right?
No,
I hope in 5 years, we absolutely have to have
Yeah,
a
that's what we're hoping
parking
for,
garage on
yeah.
the property.
I'm hoping after March 17th and the building, our new building's up, and we get a new hotel downtown that, 2 years from now, I'm coming to you that we need to do parking and asking you for permission to go out for RFQs for design-build project for a parking garage there.
That would be my
Well, desire-
wish,
Yeah, because my desire within 5 years is to have that Waterman property under development.
Yeah.
Have our new community center built and a hotel sitting in downtown Eustis. And us truthfully have the parking problem that people say that we have already. So that would be my desire, so.
Okay. Go
You know,
10.
I would be good with 20, but I see where the commission's going, so, 10 years?
I agree.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. Quickly, sir.
George Body. I also own some property around that area as well. And what we don't want is another Mount Dora downtown. And if you're going to limit a parking area for 10 years, what you're telling someone who's developing in the area, or even me who is developing in the area, is you can't count on the parking past 10 years. But if you go spend $1 million to develop something right there, we're not going to promise you the parking. And that's not smart, in my opinion, to do toward fostering. What it does is it hinders the growth going forward. We got to have parking no matter what. I think we all agree that giving 10 years sounds good, sounds like but a loan, a process, a return is way beyond 10 years. In some cases, it's 30 years. So 20 years is not we want the parking anyway, no matter what. We don't want to be downtown Mount Dora and be out of parking. So if we limit something to 10 years, we stop and we hinder economic development in that area, especially around there, especially with the Lake Mechanical going bankrupt. You have an 8,000 square foot building with no parking if you don't gift that parking there. Also, the warehouse that I purchased on the north side of it, you have no parking then if you do that. Going the other way across and over, you have development that can be coming in, no parking at all. So all we're asking is that you commit the parking there for at least 20 years. A plan would be way longer than that. You got to have parking there anyway. So we're not saying don't change it, don't make it bigger, don't make it smaller. Just be committed to parking for at least 20 years in that general area where there's empty buildings right now that need to be developed. Otherwise, I mean, what can you do with an 8,000 square foot building and no parking? Would you buy it? Would any of you buy it? Would any of you invest in it? No. We're stopping economic development. That was part of that building as well, and it should have been sold together if you ask me, but somehow the estate broke it up, and we're going to hinder that. We're going to hinder the other property on the north side. So that's what you need to understand from our side. I understand what you're thinking. It's always good to have as much flexibility as you could get. I get that, but that comes with a big price.
I still think any commission coming after us, I should say, will probably look at it the same way you're thinking. If there's some building going on downtown, they're not going to give it up to some sort of residential unit or condos or whatever else, if it's a needed process. But I think we all agree that, we don't want to make this a commitment for 20 years that we're not even going to be here. We just
You're committing parking to the downtown central area. That's what you're committing to.
And I still think the market will dictate, even in the 5th year, the 6th year, the 10th year, whether or not it's still viable. And I think it makes sense to me.
The market doesn't dictate that, Commissioner Moore. What you're doing is you have a development that needs to go in there, and if someone's going to develop that property and not have parking, no one's going to do it. No one's going to do it. So you need to have that parking. That's an intricate part of that. And if they made somebody made a good faith effort not to go bid against the city to have that parking over there.
I think we've committed to parking.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, but
We're talking about it before 10 years, we were going to need to build a multiple floor parking facility.
Then you're agreeing to what I'm speaking favorable toward is that you do make that commitment for 20 years. I don't care if it's a 3-story, a 1-story, leave it the way it is, but parking will be in downtown. That parking will be there. Those structures will outlive 20 years that are surrounding it.
I guess the way I see it is that we're committed to that, and saying 10 years, 20 years, all that, it's still going to be what it is, in 20 years and 10 years, and so.
But we cannot develop. You cannot go to a bank, you cannot go to a lender, you cannot take a property, get a loan on it, get it processed, and going without providing parking. Would you rent space from an adjacent building there if I told you we don't have parking, but the city says they'll be there, they think it should, it probably wouldn't. It's a committed city parking. If Mount Dora did that in the beginning, they wouldn't have the problems they have now.
are you sticking with 10?
Yeah, I just thought maybe, in 5 years, we'd be building a parking garage there.
But you can do that, and I want you to do
We're
that.
gonna get gigged for that too, because it'll be multi-story.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's not what we're trying to restrict. All we want is that it remains that and the flexibility. Am I right that it's for the flexibility of the city to build whatever they want to build on it, as long as they have parking?
That's correct.
Okay, so we're saying the same thing, except you're saying 10 years. I'm saying if you want me to spend $1 million or $2 million within 5 feet of that property line, I need 20 years of parking.
But I'm also saying that we don't even need a deed restriction. We believe, the five of us, it sounds like, that we're okay with parking. You're
And I'm
asking
okay
for a
with-
deed.
I'm okay
We
with
don't
it.
need to have a deed.
You need to have a deed restriction because in the absence of a deed restriction,
The
the
next
future
commission
commission
can sell
could
it.
release
Future
any
commission.
future commitments.
I'm okay with it staying with nothing as long as your 5 are up there. But, that's not going to happen through the
Because I'm
course.
old.
Yeah,
all are.
you are.
Did you
So-
just say she
I'm
was?
not-
I'm pleading the fifth on that.
Yeah, yeah.
Bob said
Anyway.
she was.
We're understanding what you're
You know-
saying, but I think in our case,
I don't have a problem with 20 years. It's going to be parking anyway. The plan is parking 10 years, 20 years, 20 years. What are we restricting?
It says that you're going to exclusively allow this for public parking
Public
as you
parking.
see fit in your discretion, so you could build
So-
whatever you want, have underground parking, but it must be available for public parking.
Underground parking?
Whatever you guys want to try to do.
and any escape clause, if a commission 5 years from now sees we're in a recession,
There's
You
nothing
still-
like that.
you can't sell it.
You can sell it.
You could sell
But it
it.
can only be used for public parking.
Okay, yeah, that's what I'm saying, okay. That's the part that I was having a problem with, is that if something happens the next commission and we find ourselves on a downturn and you need to have that, what do you do with it? That's why I wanted to go just
Oh,
for
for
10
a
years.
recession, nobody's going to buy public parking
No, if we decide we had to, if we decide to sell, and so.
in the recession.
I think you have to look at the properties that surround it, the people who are going to be taking advantage of that parking, and say, can they function? Is that building going to stay empty, or are they going to be developed and continue to grow with economic development? I know, Karen, you have some familiarity with investing in property and everything. No one will do that.
I'm
Look,
okay
you
with-
have to
I'm
look
okay
at
with
it.
20. I'm okay with 20, and let's go from there. What do you?
I'm 20.
Listen to me, I'm taking
No,
control.
go ahead.
I'm going to just sit.
What do you think?
I'm easy, 20.
Same here. Same here. I'm
It's
okay.
going
have
to
to
be,
be.
it is going to be a parking
This
lot.
is good for the
That's
city
what
for
I'm
life.
saying, but it seems to me what we have.
Well, then you say 10.
I say 10.
She says 10. Okay,
All
so
right,
we
it's
have
4-1.
420.
Would you please get the lights turned on in that parking lot for me?
Yes, sir.
There's no power in that parking lot.
Okay.
Evidently, it was turned off, and it is sitting dark.
We have the ownership now, right?
Yes.
So it's
Oh,
totally
good.
ours, we can do that.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners.
My only other thing about that lot is street parking again. The big rigs are still there.
Oh, it was horrible down there today with the big rigs
Yeah.
parking down there.
They're down there.
They need to go.
Well, they
No.
need to find someplace else
They need to
park.
find someplace else
There
to
you
park.
go.
And
I thought I saw them parked across the street at the old Winn-Dixie, whatever it is now. I saw big rigs parked over there, so.
Even down there is not the right spot for
No,
them. They're
they
still
need-
in our downtown corridor. They need to get out of
And they're
downtown.
ruining the street. You can
How
see
do
the
we-
oil spills
how do
and
we
diesel spills. right?
move
Well, one option obviously is to put a load limit on the road. Can we put a length limit on the parking? No vehicles over X feet can park?
No truck parking.
Absolutely. It's your
Yeah.
property. Yeah.
Yeah, no truck
We
parking.
own
No
it.
truck
No,
parking.
on the right
That's
of way.
ours. That's the whole thing.
Oh, on the right of way.
On the right of way.
Well, you can't obstruct the right of way, so they shouldn't be parking there anyway.
No, these are in parking spots that are,
They're taking the whole,
they're taking the whole block, which are, they're painted parking spots, designated spots. They're parking and taking up 3 spots, and they're filling it up with trucks. So how can we regulate that?
There may be some other activities going on too.
Are they occupying more than one space? What are we talking? Is it-
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are tractor.
Oh, yeah, this is by the post, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, you can restrict it. You can put meters there if you want.
Let's make money off it.
If you wish, then you could direct staff to draft an ordinance that in certain street areas that no vehicles over 40 feet be parked, are allowed to park there.
Because they could park on Bay also.
Well, we can't regulate Bay because that's a state highway.
Okay, so they can park along that, on this, okay. Just moves the problem over, apparently.
It does, but we address those problems that we can address.
Okay, I understand.
Anything
Sounds
else,
good.
Mr. Nybert?
That's all I have.
All right.
Just that one item, sorry.
Oh, that's right, it's your next.
Oh, yeah.
One item.
And you have something to say?
I do. I'm going to send you an email and invite your questions. There was an agreement I had to prepare pursuant to the majority Stoneman Douglas law that facilitates the 911 service between dispatching agencies. So the chiefs of the cities that have dispatch need to sign it, but I'm going to forward it to you, so if you have any questions, you can ask me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's it.
Anything else, sir?
No, sir.
All right. Thank you all for sticking with us tonight. Just some quick updates with today's activities. Gary Wenheim, our officer that was shot, is in decent shape. I talked to his wife just before the meeting started. She's in good spirits. Gary's in good spirits, joking. He has posted on Facebook already. So that's a good situation there. He should be fine. They have just put an end to the scene up in Umatilla. And I'm not going to tell you the outcome. That's something that the news and our public information officer can relate to you all a little bit later. That's still kind of a situation going on up there. There has been a shootout, so we'll leave it at that at this point. But they have him. He's at least in custody, okay? We got a great group of people working for us. So, rough time of year to go through that. But, dog park opening today was outstanding. Join us tomorrow for the dedication of Corey Roll Field out at Carver Park. That's at 9 o'clock in the morning. Hopefully we'll have a great turnout out there. It's been a great Christmas season for us here in Eustis. A lot of great visitors coming downtown and visiting our downtown area. We've gotten a lot done this year. Looking forward to 2020. I think we've got a lot we can get done as long as we all continue to work together and pull forward together. So with that said, I want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, and we're adjourned.
Thank you. Merry
Thank you very much.
Christmas, and thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Can I open it now?
Yes.
Sorry, sir. Just a little-
Thank you, Gary.
I don't know where it is.